great to be back here. It's always a privilege to be here with you. And what I wanted to do today was discuss the Pumpkin Plan 2.0. It's the method to rapidly grow your business organically and healthily. And as we go along, by the way, I have a little worksheet. It's the one with me there. That, by the way, is a free bonus souvenir for you. You can cut that out, the picture of me, and post it above your bed or wherever else you think is appropriate. So it was funny. After I presented, I think it was 4 years ago, right here at boot camp, about the Pumpkin Plan, I got a call from a member and said something interesting. He said, I love the Pumpkin Plan. It's a strategy to dominate a niche and start growing. But he said, I want to be the authority of the niche. I want to grow extraordinarily fast. I want to be a living legend. And that was the words that stuck with me, that concept of a living legend. Well, over the last 3 years, I researched out what makes a living legend. You know, people like Elon Musk and the Tesla, Sarah Blakely of the, oh my God, I was about to say spandex. What was it? Spanx, not spandex, thank you. Yeah. Well, for me, she's not a living legend, clearly. I'm not a big Spanx wearer. Branson, you know, there's all of these names that come up, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely, of living legends. And what they have achieved is that they've become such an authority that we all are aware of them. I am sure you didn't see a Tesla commercial before you heard of the first Tesla. I'm sure you didn't hear about a Spanx commercial before you heard about Spanx or the Virgin product line. Because that's what a living legend does. They catch momentum. They are in the right place at the right time, and the momentum of the market carries them. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to have the market carry your business forward so you can be a living legend in your industry and grow to any size that you want to. You know, it's this concept of being in the right place at the right time. I started my research by figuring out, how do we put ourselves in the right place? Where do we position our business so that we can catch the momentum of the market? And it introduced me to a person I didn't expect. It was a woman named Becky Blanton. She was homeless, first by choice, and then it was forced upon her. And she taught me the concept of being in the right place. I found her through TED. I'm a big, any TED fans here? A lot of TED fans? Okay, yeah, TED is awesome. I saw her presentation on TED. It has 17 million views. It's one of the most popular ones. So I decided I'd interview her for this concept of positioning yourself in the right place, because she had found out a secret, a way to position yourself to catch momentum. And her backstory is, she is a journalist, wanted to discover the challenges that homeless people experience, and decided for 2 months to experience homelessness. But her journalism didn't go the way she thought it would go, and after 2 months, she wasn't making enough income to return to her home, and actually invoked another 16 months of being homeless. And she lived by finding money. I met with her for breakfast one day at a Waffle House, and we were in Virginia, and we got together, and she started sharing the story of how she can find money. And here's what she told me. And I don't know if you know this. If you find, or if I find $10 laying on the floor today, I think the world has opened up to me. I think I am blessed by the Lord because there's $10 there. It's happened to me maybe once or twice in my lifetime that I found money, right? Becky finds $10 every single day because she developed a system. Here's what Becky told me. Becky says when it comes to finding money, there's these things called catch and hold points. I don't know if you knew this, but milk crates are like butterfly traps for cash. Literally, if you go outside a restaurant and someone is fumbling around with their wallets and some money falls out and it blows around, those milk crates catch money. She explained to me that if you go to a bus stop, inevitably you'll always find cash. People are trying to get onto the bus. Money falls out of their pocket when they pull out their ticket or maybe pull out the change, and the bus noise covers up the change falling on the ground. So every time the bus would pull away, Becky would just go over there, swoop up another $1 or $2 worth of money, put it in her pocket, and repeat the system over and over. But perhaps my favorite finding point, or catch and hold point as she called them, for money was furniture stores. hopefully you haven't done this, but your own couch, you ever kind of slide your hand along the crevices? Out comes like marshmallows and disgustingness. Sometimes a quarter. Well, when people go to the furniture store, they find that nice chair or couch and they kind of test it out. They bounce around and say, oh, I like how this feels. And as they do that, money falls into the crevices. So what would Becky do? She'd go to furniture stores, run her hand along the couch, and pull out money. She built a system where she was finding $10 in every day, enough to sustain what she needed. If we put ourselves in the right place, our business in the right place, we have an opportunity to catch money. But we also need to do it at the right time. And perhaps my favorite story that I found out as I was researching my book was a guy named John Chapman. Perhaps a name you don't recognize, but I am confident you know John Chapman's story. John Chapman lived back around 1870. This was during Manifest Destiny. The United States was an East Coast colony, basically, and the belief had come about that it was the right of the new U.S. citizens to expand all the way from coast to coast. They called it Manifest Destiny. Well, back in the 1870s, the launch point for Manifest Destiny was Pittsburgh. So there's established civilization all the way up to Pittsburgh, but then once you went west of that, it was wild territory. Now think about the settlers that were launching from Pittsburgh, what they faced. They faced, first of all, an indigenous population that wasn't too thrilled that the white man was coming through. Secondly, they faced horrific conditions. The weather and stuff took so many people. And water was sparse. If you found water, it was usually bacteria-laden, and it was an absolute travesty. It would kill you. So bad water, bad climate, and really, really unhappy people to see you. Talk about tough conditions. Well, John Chapman observed the challenges that his future clients were facing. No water, dangerous. And what he decided to do was to set up a launch point in Pittsburgh. And this is how it worked. As people came through, he observed their behavior. What did they need next? They were about to go out there, and he noticed that the water supply was a real challenge. They brought a little bit of water that would last maybe a week, but they were going for months across to the California coast. They didn't have enough water to survive. And man, they were facing hard conditions. So what John Chapman did is he set up another station out at the next stop, if you will, from Pittsburgh, maybe say 60 or 70 miles out, or maybe a couple hundred miles, a couple days travel out. And what he did was he set up an apple orchard. Now, he was creating an apple orchard so that he could make apple cider, not, the apple cider that you may think I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really good stuff, the hooch. He made apple cider hooch. And why did people want this? They were flocking to his apple orchard because they were facing horrible conditions. First of all, they couldn't drink the water, but when there was alcohol in the liquid, it was digestible. There was no more bacteria. So now they had something to drink. Secondly, they were facing a population who did not want to see them. A little liquor made it a little bit easier. John Chapman continued on and set up over 200 or 300 apple orchards going out through the East Coast. He became a multimillionaire in the 1870s. Now, I know you don't know him by John Chapman. You probably know him by Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed was an entrepreneur of entrepreneurs and ultimately a living legend. He lives on today. Hundreds of years later, we still know that name because of his entrepreneurial genius. Put yourself in front of where the customer's going, and they will flock to you. And also, we know why he wore a pot in his head. He obviously imbibed in his own drink a little bit. So let's take a peek at our worksheet, and I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps that John Chapman did, that Becky Blanton does, and the most successful businesses do that catch the surge. Number 1, so I'll fill in the blanks with you. It says, when a business or a business owner is a living legend, they are treated like a celebrity of the marketplace. That's what we're looking to do, where we automatically attract customers. John Chapman, who we just talked about, executed the surge, and I'm going to explain what the surge is in just a second, by positioning apple orchards in the direct path of his prospects. And number 3, perhaps one of the most important things you need to know to grow a business to surge forward is that you look at what your customers need next and place your business directly in front of the path. Surge. Surge is just not only the concept of a movement of a market that we want to get in front of, it's also the acronym for the steps to capture that surge. So SURGE stand for the 5 steps that we need to take. The first step we're going to take is separate. And if you saw me speak about the pumpkin plan 4 years ago, did anyone see me speak about the pumpkin plan 4 years ago? Okay, oh wow, okay. So are you doing it, I hope? If you saw me speak about the pumpkin plan, this is the foundational components that you need to know. In the S stage, separate out a market. The riches are in the niches. And I will say this until I'm blue in my face. The riches are in the niches. In fact, I'll prove it to you right now. Just by a show of hands, who has a general practitioner that you visit, hopefully annually, but who here has a general practitioner doctor? Okay, like half of you? All right, half of you, some alligator claws went up. No, seriously, who has a general practitioner? I'm not going to call him up. Don't get nervous. Okay, there it is. Okay. I don't know. Is he going to call them? I don't want them to know about the fungus on me. I know. I heard about it. We all likely, hopefully, have a general practitioner. If you don't, let me tell you something. I encourage you to get a general practitioner so you can get your general checkup. Now, I do want to tell you about a challenge that your general practitioner has. Now, I don't know you and your general practitioner, but I can lay out some parameters which I bet you are 100% true. I suspect that your general practitioner doctor is in your general vicinity. I suspect that he or she is located within a comfortable driving distance from you. I suspect generally that your general practitioner won't charge more than maybe a $50, or if they're really crazy, $100 copay for your insurance. And I suspect your general practitioner is really good at diagnosing any general ailments you have, that sniffling nose, the rash on your skin, that nagging cough. And I also suspect that if you go to your general practitioner with a nagging cough and they diagnose it and she looks at you and says, you know, that nagging cough is not just a cold, that's actually an indication of a heart malformation, your general practitioner won't say, you know, I've never done heart surgery, but I'd love to try it out on you. Would you be interested? Of course not. That's absurd. I also suspect your general practitioner doesn't say, you know what, I know, I'm in New Jersey. I know that you visit me here in New Jersey. I'm thinking about moving to California. I like the lifestyle out there. Would you be willing to still come visit me in California for your annual checkup? No, I want someone that's convenient, nearby. And if a general practitioner says, you know, the $50 copay, quite frankly, it's not working for either of us. I'm thinking we're going to move that to $5,000 per checkup. Are you crazy? I will never see you again. And that's the problem of the general practitioner. You have to be a generalist who competes with the general community, who generally doesn't do much more than the standard offering. You have to be skilled at a variety of things. I know this for sure because down the street from where I live is a general practitioner. He goes back to school over and over for the newest things going on. Oh, what's the big disease of the day? It's Zika virus, baby. So he goes and studies Zika virus. How many times do you hear Zika virus? Baby. Not too often. He goes and studies Zika virus and whatever is the new thing. Now, here's the irony. If that nagging cough that you have is an indication of heart disease, you're going to get referred to a specialist, the heart surgeon. When you go to a heart surgeon, the heart surgeon will likely say, I've done 1,000 of these operations. Would you like me to work on you? Yes. We want to work with someone that has repeated experience because expertise, definitive expertise, is built through repetition of working on one type of situation over and over and over again. If that heart surgeon says, you know, my copay is $5,000, we're like, that's it? That's a great deal. Here you go. We'll find money from friends and family. We'll do whatever it is because our life is on the line. And if the heart surgeon is not in your local town, but they are across the globe, but they're the best at your situation, it's a vacation now. I wanted to go out there. Now, here's the great irony. In my town is literally one of the leading heart surgeons. He's worked on 3 living presidents, and he and I'm not actually want to put any judgment on the moral decision here, but he bought the largest house in our town in New Jersey to knock it down to build a larger house. Now, I am not suggesting morally that's a good decision or not. That's for you to decide. But I do want to point out something extraordinary. The specialists dictate the most income and dictate the best customers. You see, when a customer picks a heart surgeon, they are very vested in a successful outcome because their life is on the line. When we pick our general practitioner, we say, are they within driving distance? And the general practitioner on the other side of town, sadly but truthfully, is struggling to still pay off his loans from school, his medical training loans. Are you a specialist or are you a generalist? The specialists inevitably get the best customers who want the best results and will pay a significant premium to get that result. As I was writing the book, I talked with Brian Smith, also a living legend. Perhaps you don't recognize Brian Smith's name, but perhaps you recognize the name of Ugg Boots. I met with Brian Smith, and he laid out the strategy of how his brand became a living legend. Brian Smith is from Australia, and he came to the United States to start a business. He wanted to study what he felt was the mecca of fashion in the surfing industry, which was California, Southern California, the Monterey, Pacific Grove area. So he went there to watch what surfers were doing. And he noticed something that was fascinating happening back in the mid-1970s or late 1970s when he started his business. There was advancements in neoprene. If you don't know what neoprene is, it's like a foam-like material, or sponge material that nowadays surfers wear, scuba divers wear, and so forth. But back in the early 70s, neoprene was thick. Like when your child was 3 years old and they went out to play in the snow, that snowsuit you put them on where they kind of walked around like this? That's what neoprene was like back in the day. But by the mid-1970s and late 1970s, neoprene was becoming so advanced that it was thinner and thinner, but it could retain body heat. So what did that mean for surfers? Surfers could now surf year-round. In the freezing Pacific in the middle of the winter, you could hop on your surfboard because you could wear neoprene. But as every surfer knows, you can't wear boots on a surfboard, not to surf well. You need to get the grip with your feet. So what Brian Smith noticed is he was observing his community, the ones that he wanted to serve. He simply observed them and noticed that if they came in after doing a set on the water, they would run to the fire pit on the beach to warm up their feet. They would wrap it in blankets just to make sure that their feet would stay warm. He separated out a community and observed them. Who is your niche? Pick them out and observe them. There's an opportunity of what they need next. And Brian Smith knew what it was. They needed warm feet. So number 4 is the first stage of surge is to separate a community. Now, I want to give you a very specific tool how today you can pick a niche that you can dominate. It's real simple. We're going to look at your existing client list. And here's how we do it. I want you to look at your existing client list. You could do it on the back piece of paper right now. And we're going to sort your clients out by revenue. Most revenue to least revenue. Why do we sort out clients by revenue, our existing clients? Because the clients who pay us the most are demonstrating through their behavior, they value us the most. I have a saying that people do not speak the truth through their words, they speak the truth through their wallets. They can say they love you, they can say they enjoy working with you, but if they're not buying from you repeatedly, their action's not demonstrating that. So first step in identifying where the opportunity of the lifetime is for you to dominate a niche, to catch a surge, is to sort your clients by revenue, most to least. People spend the most, they're demonstrating through actions they love you the most. But we're not done with this analysis. There's another column. And the next column is simply called the cringe factor. And here's how the cringe factor works. And I know you've had this. As you look at every single client on your list, just ask yourself, when the phone rings, what's your reaction? Is it the phone rings and you're like, oh my God, I love these people. Hello, how are you? It's another wonderful day here at IT Central. Or, you know the situation I'm talking about, is it the oh Jesus moment? When the phone rings, you're like, oh my God, I hate this person. I can't believe they got my cell phone. I told everyone not to give me my cell phone number, right? And then you're like, well, I won't answer this. And you try to push the hang up button and you push the answer button. And you're like, oh God. And then you pick up the phone and you're like, hello. Now, there's a strategy to manage this. I'm sure everyone in this room knows this strategy. A friend of mine told me this. It's the mute technique. Here's how you do, in case you don't know. If you're talking to someone you don't like, make sure you can see the mute button with your finger, and as you're talking, turn the mute on and off. So, hey, Mr. Customer, I can't, it's a back. There must be, click, 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 right? That's a cringe factor. It's real simple. This is how we're gonna measure the progress, or we're gonna measure your clients. Clients that pay you the most and you love doing business with are the ones we wanna clone. Clients that pay you a lot of money and you hate doing business, we don't wanna do business with them. Why? Because we defer to working with our best clients naturally. We always give our best service to our best clients. That client that you probably say to your employees, all clients are equal, they're all important. Bull, I know how you behave. That client that you don't like, you're like, I'll put off that call till the end of the day at 11 o'clock at night when I know they won't answer the phone. The clients that we don't like, we automatically defer and push off and delay. That's not extraordinary customer service. Being on top of the game is, and if it's a customer you love, that's the customer that we need to focus on. So we have to identify who are the customers that pay us the most or demonstrating through their actions they value us the most. Second, are they a cringe factor or are they a smiley face? Because if we love them, that's the one we want to clone. And there's a third component to catching the surge, and it's simply your curiosity in their industry. If you are interested not only in what you do, but the industry they're in, you're going to lap up knowledge and learn how to speak their language. Step one in the surge, sort your clients, identify who the true best clients are, and we're going to focus on them. The answer to number 5 here is a patient will go to extraordinary measures to acquire life-saving services. A prospect will go to extraordinary measure to acquire specialists. We talked about the doctor and how we will traverse the world to find that doctor when they see their business's life depends on it. And that's the key. That's the key. There is a set of customers in any industry that see hiring you, a managed service provider, is life critical to them. It's the minority. You can use the 80-20 rule. 20% see you as a life-saving business, 80% see you as a general practitioner that they could throw out the door. So we need to focus on that top 20%. That's how you separate a community. The second step is to unify. That's what the U stands for, and I think that's the answer to number 6. You must unify with your customers' needs. This is the concept of the MVP. There's actually an interesting book written about the minimum viable product, Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and he shared a great concept. Too many businesses start out and we say, I have this great concept, we build out the entire concept, and then no one wants to buy it. A minimum viable product is where you build the essence, this is the core essence of your product or your service, and you start delivering it to your best customers to see how they respond to it. There is a massive opportunity in security today. I mean, a massive opportunity. And to build out an entire security suite, of how we're going to protect you from all these online criminals, is probably not the right move. First, identify the best customers, and now just introduce a core basic offering to see if they respond to it. Again, remember, people speak the truth through words and through their wallets, not their words, their actions. They want to buy that minimum viable product. I actually I have a funny story about how people behave and how we speak lies to each other constantly, because I actually saw it here happening as I was walking in. We were just on break, I was walking in, and I just kind of listened to a few conversations that was going on. And here's what I heard from almost everyone I walked by. One person says, hey, how's life going? Fantastic, it's great. How's the trip been? Pretty good, pretty good. How are the kids? Wonderful. Life, wonderful. Everyone right now in this room is having a wonderful time. Bullshit. That's unless right here in Nashville is the mecca of happiness. No, it's not true. People here are having struggles right now. There's people dying, our friends or family. There's illnesses going on. Business ain't great. But we all know the socially appropriate rule is that when someone asks you how you're doing, you better say good or okay or great. Because if you say it's horrible, that person that just asked you how things going is going to throw up in their own mouth. So we play the game. And our clients know the game too. So when we ask our clients, how are things going? And they say things are great and fine, they're probably lying to you because they are playing the socially appropriate game. Maybe they're not, but they're playing the game. We can't believe it. We have to do something that's minimally viable to observe what the true behavior is. I was in Copenhagen a few years back, presenting to an audience that's slightly bigger than this of mid-cap corporations. Now, if you don't know what a mid-cap corporation is, this is a business that does somewhere between $500 million in annual revenue to $1 billion of revenue. At each table was the C-suite, the CEO, CFO, CPO, C3PO, whatever. All the C's were there. That was hysterical. I never said that joke before, and that was hysterical. C3PO. You'll never forget that. Like, what was the best part? The C3PO joke. It was amazing. So I'm presenting on the concept of the pumpkin plan originally, and this is the pumpkin plan 2.0. And these are big corporations because the importance of focusing on your best clients and cloning them is absolutely the core essence of rapid growth. So I'm explaining to companies the size of GE and, well, not GE, but large corporations like that and their division leads explaining this. Well, I'm getting all into my presentation. You'll see I never use PowerPoints. I usually like to run around a lot. I asked Jeff Johnson, I'm probably the only speaker that's ever asked this, am I allowed to climb on this? He said no, but normally I would. I wanted to. And I run around the stage a lot of times. And I had this big marker, and there's this big whiteboard up here, and I'm drawing out the chart as we're going along. Because of what happened next, I don't even use markers anymore. I'm drawing this up here. I'm like, do you understand the importance of focusing on your best clients? Do you understand this? The lights are on me as a spotlight. Sweat is dripping down. And just for a second, as everyone's taking notes, I stop to take a breath. I'm like, and to wipe the sweat off of my forehead with the marker in my hand. I come up like this to wipe the sweat off. I drew the most massive unibrow on the planet on my forehead. And no one said anything. No one said anything. All of a sudden, I'll pretend I'm like one of the people in the audience. People are sitting there, like watching my presentation, taking notes. The second the unibrow face appeared, everyone did this. Right? And they're all like this. And I think I'm putting on the best presentation ever. I'm like, this is clicking now, baby. They are into it. Ha-ha, look at me. One person looks between her fingers like this. She's like, I went on for an hour and a half, and no one said a word. It was only at the very end, after it's done, one person comes up, in broken English nonetheless, and says, unibrow? I'm like, I never saw that movie. What are you talking about? I went to the bathroom and was just sitting there. The lesson is this. That was funnier than the C3PO joke, I think. The lesson is this. We do not speak the truth to others. It is our actions that indicate our true feelings. And it's too bad that we run these surveys and we do all these things and how do our customers love us and what's our rating, what's our ranking, and they're just like, yeah, everything's good, everything's fine, and they don't hire us again. We must introduce a minimally viable product to our customers and see if they're willing to buy it. And here's the deal. Here's how minimal you can go. Go to your best customers and say, here's a new product or service we're thinking about offering. Outline what the basic parameters are. We're going to protect you from these cyber criminals and so forth, and here's what we're going to outline, or whatever your product is. And then ask your best customers saying, would you be willing to prepay for it? I mean, literally right now, would you write us a check? I'll give you a discount, but I want to see if you're willing to prepay it. Try that with a friend of yours. Go to a friend of yours and say, hey, we're thinking about doing a little fundraising. Would you be interested in fundraising with us and raising some money for us? They'd say, yeah, sure. Then say, hey, are you willing to write a check right now for $500? And then they're like, yeah, the kids have a soccer game. I'll see you later, right? And they walk away. When we ask for money, the whole situation changes. Now our true behavior demonstrates itself. So go to your best customers, ask for a prepayment. That's the ultimate minimum viable product. And if they're not buying it, you haven't figured it out yet. If they are, okay, now you got figured it out, plus now you have to deliver it. As I was talking to Brian Smith, founder of UGG, I said, so you found out you were watching the surfers and you see that they have cold feet. What do you do next? He said, well, clearly they needed warm feet. Surfing had become a year-round sport. So I decided to introduce a minimally viable product. And here's how Brian Smith did it. He called his buddy in Australia and said, hey, send me some of those boots they make in Australia. It was like this lamb wool boot. And he said, and send me over, 8 pairs. Literally 8 pairs is how Uggs got started, of someone else's boot. And he started to go surfers and said, hey, what do you think about this boot? Try it on, what do you think? Minimally viable, and he wanted to see if people would buy it. And sure enough, a few of the early adopters did. So, number 7, develop a minimally viable product. Now, here's the other part. Perhaps you've heard the word, and I know what you're probably thinking. You've probably heard the word pivot a million times, right? So here's the concept of pivot. Pivot is once you develop something for your customer, that basic product, start to adjust and see what the customer wants. In fact, Uber did this. I don't know if you know the start of Uber. Uber started in New York City, right where I live, and here's the minimum viable product that the Uber founders developed. First, they saw a need in the market. They were coming out of their own buildings. They were business executives, and they came out of the building, and they noticed that it was very hard to catch a cab, particularly in the rain, and they were just standing there, and one of them said, I wish my friend was just in the area. I could just text him and have him pick me up. Oh, that's an interesting idea. And so they said, well, why don't we test it with a minimally viable product? Here's what Uber did. They called about 5 friends that had cars and said, if I can get you to drive someone around New York City and I paid you for it, would you be willing to pick up some people? Their 5 friends said, yeah, sure. Then they told about 20 friends of theirs saying, hey, next time you're outside and you can't get a ride on a cab, would you be willing to text us or me? Would you be willing to text me saying, I need a ride? So the initial concept of Uber was tested out simply through texting on our phone. Customers over here waiting for a cab, cab's not coming, sends a text saying, need ride. Uber guy is over here, he says, hey, what's up, thanks, where are you? This guy says, 34th and 5th. This guy says, hold on. He then texts his buddy here that has the car and says, are you anywhere near 34th and 5th? Could you head over there and pick him up? No. Then text, damn it. Then another text, is there another driver? And he finds a driver, then he texts that original person, says, we've located you a driver, they're on their way, they'll be there in 15 minutes. No infrastructure required, no programming, no nothing. They tested the concept over and over again. Brian Smith tested the concept over and over again. If you want to catch the surge of your market, it's real simple. Start testing that new thing where the customers are going. That's what Johnny Appleseed told us. They didn't have to set up apple orchards on the East Coast. Everything was cool there. It's once you got past Pittsburgh that things went crazy. And that's where he set up his apple orchards. What is your customer's next problem? Now, back to pivot. So we're told to pivot, right? So if the customer doesn't like what we have to offer, you have to adjust to what the customer wants. And you can keep on pivoting and pivoting until ultimately you're delivering exactly what the customer wants. There's just one problem with this. Sometimes we pivot ourselves into a business that we loathe. We do what the customer wants, like, oh, the customer needs this, customer wants that, sure. Oh my God, I hate my own life. That's what we move to. So I want to give you one tweak. Instead of pivoting, align. Get real clear on why you're in your business. And I know there's 2 reasons. One, I'm sure, is for financial freedom. You're doing this to support your family and your lifestyle. I get it. And the second part, I hope, is to have some form of impact, to serve others in some way. Get really clear on why you're doing that. Why are you serving clients in the way you're serving them? And then every time you adjust your minimally viable product to serve your customers, ask yourself, is this still congruent with why I'm doing this? And if you have that congruency, then you're aligned. Keep rolling out the minimally viable product. So, on our worksheet here, number 7, develop it says and, but I should say develop a minimally viable product and validate through transactions. Don't pivot, instead align. The third step in Surge is R, stands for rally cry. Here's what's going to happen. You start introducing a new product or new service. You know who your community is, right? You've separated them out. You start testing out something new, something that distinguishes you in the market, something that others don't do. And then you're you're going to get some early adopters. This company right here experienced it, the Tesla guys. What happens, which is interesting, when you introduce something new that the market hasn't seen or experienced before, and by the way, I'm not saying like you have to invent something radically new. When you're in a specific niche, even though someone else is doing this in a different niche, this niche doesn't know what it is. So if you introduce it to them, whatever it is, it's new to them. But this company experienced what every new product and service experience, there's immediate resistance. I don't know if you remember the articles that came out about Tesla when Tesla was introduced about 7 or 8 years ago when it became mainstream, maybe it was 5 years ago. But it came out, and the first newspaper reports called it the mobile hydrogen bomb. We are sitting with a mobile hydrogen bomb in this room. My dad just laughed, thank you, I appreciate it. I didn't even know you were here. This is hysterical stuff, people. The newspaper said a mobile hydrogen bomb. If this car gets rear-ended, the batteries will explode. It's extremely dangerous. But there's some early adopters. There's some people that say, oh, you know what? I want to try out the Tesla. That's pretty cool. They need a rally cry. They need a greater reason they're doing what they're doing because inevitably they're going to be attacked. That first guy driving or gal driving the Tesla, someone went up and said, you know, Tesla, you know that's a hydrogen bomb you're driving. They're like, listen, I'm the person who's putting a green planet before you are. I'm the person who's not willing to compromise performance and environmental responsibility. They had a rally cry, environmental responsibility without compromise. And so the early adopters could protect themselves. UGG had the same thing. If you saw the first UGG boots, Google pictures of the first UGG boots. If you ever saw the movie Spies Like Us, has anyone seen Spies Like Us? The movie? Okay, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. There's that one scene, they're in Siberia, and they have those costumes, outfits on. The boots are like woolly mammoth boots that they're wearing, and they're walking around like this, right? If you haven't seen the movie, that scene is hysterical too. It's so funny. They're wearing these ridiculous things. And that's what the first UGG boot looked like. Every cool surfer knew, hey man, you wear flip-flops, you walk down the beach, and you're walking around just like this, and everything's cool. And then comes the first early adopter in the surfing community. And he's wearing UGG boots. He comes walking down the beach like this. And what happens? People start making fun of him. What is that? Clown shoes? What is that ridiculousness? The surfer needed a rally cry. A rally cry is a reason they're doing this. They said, they look crazy. I can surf year-round because I don't have cold feet. Literally, UGG's rally cry was no cold feet, surf year-round. What is the rally cry? When people adopt your new service and product, what are they rallying around? Because the people surrounding them will attack them. Say, that's a dumb idea. In fact, we have to go even further than a rally cry, and we need to develop what's called a buyer's defense. Who here is familiar with buyer's remorse? There's a camera right there. Who's here familiar with buyer's remorse? 4 people. Okay. Wow. Robin, you said they needed help, but geez, no, she didn't say that. All right, so let's get real clear what buyer's remorse is then. So we're on the same page. Buyer's remorse is where a consumer makes a purchase from you. They say, I'd like to hire you for our managed services. And then immediately or near after, they say, ooh, I shouldn't have made that decision. I'm spending too much money. There is regret, and they try to unwind the purchase. So buyer's remorse is the regret they experience after engaging your services and want to unwind it. That's a real problem for us. But there's a real big problem, and it's this. Buyer's remorse was no longer legitimate or valid 25 years ago. We've been elevated to a brand new level called buyer's defense. Did you know that? Whole new level, buyer's defense. Buyer's remorse is where the purchaser that purchases from you says, I shouldn't have done that. Buyer's defense is where the people who surround the purchaser start attacking them for making the decision. And what happened 25 years ago was the advent of the internet. All knowledge is out there. Clearly, these are hydrogen bombs. Clearly, there's a better solution than hiring a managed service provider. You can just get McAfee antivirus. It'll do everything. That's hysterical. What's up with you people? McAfee. I used to be a managed service provider when we called it network integration, so I totally get the space. I used to install MAUs and coax. When Ethernet came in, I was like, game over. This is too complex for me. That's how far back I go in this industry. I'm a big token ring guy. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, token ring is awesome. I love that you could just unscrew just a coax cable a little bit and crash an entire network. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, you're not going to pay your bill? Sorry. I don't know. So we've been elevated to this thing called buyer's defense. Here's the deal. When your customers purchase your services, I can guarantee they're being attacked. The people surrounding them know a better solution because the internet says it's out there. It could be McAfee. It could be their uncle. You could just do all the YouTube videos in the world and set up your own network and maintain it and never be attacked. That's what they believe, and that's the reality. So we need to protect them from this using a buyer's defense strategy. Now, just to drive this strategy home to you, I'll give you an example of how I experienced this. This happened probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 now, was the Vibram FiveFingers shoe was introduced. Has anyone seen the Vibram FiveFingers? Okay. All right, good. There's more people in the room that know the Vibram FiveFingers shoe than buyer's remorse. That's kind of weird. All right, so the Vibram FiveFingers shoe, if you don't know it, a normal shoe looks like this. The front of a shoe kind of follows what our hand looks like. The Vibram FiveFingers shoe looks like this. It is a glove for your foot. You literally look like an African tree frog when you put these things on. I could just walk over there, climb the wall, walk back here like Spider-Man, come around. And if you're getting a sense for my personality, I thought this was the coolest invention ever. So when they were introduced 5, 6 years ago, I say, I'm a Vibram type of guy. I got to get these shoes. Here's how it played out. I bought the shoes from Zappos. Any Zappos customers in the room? Okay, a lot of Zappos. Okay, right here in front, I can just see you there. Did you buy shoes from Zappos? Yes, okay. How long ago did you buy shoes? 2, 3 years ago. Did you experience this? When you bought the shoes, Zappos sends an order confirmation. They're like, oh, thanks for your order. It'll be there in about 5 days. And then it arrived the next day? Yeah, yeah. So you're not the only one that gets that. Sorry. But it feels like your birthday, right? Zappos uses this strategy. It's called under promise, over deliver. That's a whole different concept that I don't want to address now, except for the core essence of it, is they set an expectation out here, they beat the expectation, and it feels like your birthday. And everyone who's bought from Zappos and raised their hand said, oh, that's happened to me too. Because Zappos does it to all of us. You've been upgraded to VIP status. Congratulations, here's your shoe. It feels like our birthday. Now here's the deal. I bought the shoes from Zappos for the first time 5 years ago. I bought the Vibram FiveFingers shoe, and I didn't know they did this little strategy of under promise, over deliver. So I decide I have an awesome strategy. I ordered the shoes to come to my house. I ordered them on a Monday, and they confirmed they're going to arrive on Friday. My whole plan is on Friday, I'm going to say goodbye to my wife. I'm like, oh, I'm going to work. When I'm lying, I do that. Work. That's the lie. That's my tell. So I'm like, I'm going to work. And then what I was going to do is drive down the road, but instead of taking a left down to my office, I'm going to take a right into the neighbor's driveway. Bill and Liza, we had this planned out. I pull my car into their garage, and I would just chill at their house until the FedEx guy came. I can see out the window. When the FedEx guy comes, I was going to run across the, I'm almost skating here. I guess I was going to skate across and grab the package from the FedEx guy, and then go back to Bill and Liza's and open this thing up. I couldn't wait to see it. This is before I knew Zappos does this nonsense, under promise, over deliver. Yeah. I come home on Tuesday. I order on Monday. I come home Tuesday from work. Had a great day at work, so forth. I pull into the driveway. I open our front door. I come into our house, and I walk into our foyer in our house. It is very small. I actually call it the foy. It's like this big. But from our foy, to my left, you can see our dining room table. And I walk in, amazing day, and on the table is the package. Opened. And all of a sudden, the amazing day felt not so amazing. I felt this heat rolling out of the kitchen. It's hard to distinguish. It kind of had a sulfur type of smell to it. No one was cooking. My heart starts racing. And then, from out of the kitchen comes Godzilla. This is my wife, by the way, which I never call her Godzilla. This is between me and you. She comes out and she's like this. She looks like Godzilla. She's like, oh my God, thank God you're home. What did you do? And just the hot air and the fire. And I'm like, ah. She's like, what are these clown shoes? And for everyone that's married in this room, is there a lot of husbands? If you're a husband, just raise your hand. Okay, so all the men in the room, I apologize for what I'm about to share. I'm going to disclose the one technique we've all been told the day you get married. The best man usually tells you this one thing. It's a strategy to protect yourself in this situation. It's called the I technique. And this is what we do. When there's a Godzilla-like attack, what did you do? Clown shoes, ah! You start to saying I really fast. You go, it's never worked in the world history of mankind. Never worked. But we will continue to try. So my wife starts yelling at me, and clown shoes. She goes, we'll be kicked out of our church, for God's sake. If someone sees you in town wearing this stuff, we'll never be invited to another social event ever. And it was like a scene out of The Matrix, because I'm just getting blown back. I'm like, ay. And within like a second, I am like this. Why isn't this camera looking? This is a perfect shot for this camera. Whoever's controlling this camera, I can't hold it much longer. There we go. And I'm like this. I'm like, hi. Now, this position, now the bald spot. For God's sake, get it off me. I cannot look. For God's sake, move that forward, quickly. Oh, you're not going to move it. Yeah, I know. I am laying there like this. This is the perfect reading position for a buyer's defense letter. Zappos had included, I'm like real nervous. Zappos had included a buyer's defense letter. And this is what it said, and this is what you can do. This is a perfect reading position, so she's yelling at me. I'm looking at this letter in this box. It said, Dear Mr. Michalowicz, that's my name, they said, we'd like to welcome you to the Free Footers Club of America. I do not know who those whack jobs are. But if I am getting divorced over this, I'm hanging out with those cool guys. So at least I had my interest. Someone was at least talking to me, not yelling. The next line said, by wearing the Vibram 5-finger shoe, you can experience barefoot walking in any type of environment. Literally, you can walk on shards of glass or hot coals, just like you're barefoot. And I don't know why you walk like this when you're barefoot, but you do. So my wife is yelling at me. I'm like, but I can have a barefoot experience anywhere. And she goes, that's stupid. Which, ironically, she's right. It was kind of stupid. Next line said, it said, by wearing these shoes, it'll improve your posture. I'm a hunter. I constantly do this. So I'm like, but hon, if I wear these shoes, I'll stand straight. And she goes, I have an idea. Just stand straight like a man. Touche. That was good. The next line literally saved my life. The next line said, by wearing the Vibram 5-finger shoe, you'll never experience plantar fasciitis. Now, I don't know what plantar fasciitis is. It's probably a venereal disease. So I go, I'll never experience plantar fasciitis. And my wife just looked at me and stopped yelling. And she goes, you'll never experience what? I said, plantar fasciitis. Now, if you don't know what plantar fasciitis is, I subsequently have found out, it is effectively a hereditary issue with your feet. It's like a foot cramping problem. My wife has plantar fasciitis. My wife now owns those shoes. Here is the lesson with the rally cry. You are going to get early adopters, your best customers. We know who they are now. We're going to be targeting that community to actually take on that new idea of yours, and they're going to be attacked by the people around them. It is the sale after the sell that is the most important thing you can do, and document it. Write it down for them. Congratulations on buying this XYZ program for us. This is how you're protected. This is what 99% of the market hasn't done this, and therefore 99% of the market's being compromised. You're not, because you've taken on this program. Document it out. Protect your customer from the inevitable attack. So number 8, Protect your clients with a powerful rally cry and have a documented buyer's defense strategy. The fourth stage of surge is the gathering point. It's the letter G, and it is perhaps the biggest trap in this process. You know, the problem is once you start getting early adopters, we get what's called this false positive. There's some people that are buying our stuff and they like our stuff and we're like, hey, we got it figured out. Exactly how I'm offering it is clearly perfect. I call this the muddy water experience. If you and I were walking through a desert and dying of thirst, and all of a sudden, after 3 days of dying of thirst, we're on our knees about to die, we see a person selling water up there. Regardless of the condition of the water, we will do everything to consume it. It could be bacteria-laden. It could be muddy. It doesn't matter. We will pay whatever dollar amount is necessary because our life depends on it. Now, the trap is not for us, the consumer. The trap is for the vendor, the one selling the water. Because the vendor is sitting there seeing people dying of thirst coming up and has the water and says, oh, I had no idea people really like muddy water. I should be selling more muddy water. I can get customers everywhere. That's the trap. We start thinking that muddy water is the solution. It's simply that the early adopters wanted muddy water. The second the clean water guy opens his stall, his booth, what's going to happen? All the customers will divert here, and this group will be done. And you've seen it before, these companies that start shimmering, and then they get crushed because they didn't continue to advance. We must gather the knowledge from our customers. We must see how to further advance our minimum viable product. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. You can do it with 3 questions. In the S stage, you found who your best customers were. In the second stage, you unified with them. You have a minimum viable product. Now you have a buyer's defense. You're helping them rally and protect them. Now I want you to go to your best customers and ask 3 questions. And these are like Jedi mind trick questions. It may not sound that way when you write it down, but I'll tell you they are. First question is, go to your best customer and say, what am I doing right? What am I doing right? Now, here's the power of that question. When your customer responds, they won't actually tell you what you're doing right. They'll tell you how they are judging you. When I was an IT provider, my best client was a hedge fund. I went to them and I said, hey, why do you keep engaging our services? What am I doing right? The managing partner of the hedge fund said, you know, Mike, one thing I'm really impressed by is when our network goes down, token ring, when our network goes down, you get someone on site within 3 or 4 hours. Now, this is old school. This is like early 90s, all right? You get someone on site within 3 or 4 hours. What he's telling me was not what's doing right. He was telling me he measures me by my responsiveness. I had to get on site within 15 minutes. And I figured out I'd just dispatch my technicians and myself to always be within a 5-mile radius of Larry. So when Larry had a problem, my true number 1 customers, the ones I wanted to develop and grow and surge upon, I would pull from a secondary customer and go to a primary. Yes, we're going to rank our customers and we're going to treat our best customers the best because birds of a feather flock together. Others like them will start to hear about your reputation. So what am I doing right? You have to do more of it. What am I doing wrong is the second question. Don't write this down. Don't write it down yet. What am I doing wrong is the second question. But if you ask what am I doing wrong, you will get the unibrow response. Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect. I just don't want to do business with you. So ask the question this way. Ask your best customers, what's wrong with my industry? Not what's wrong with me. What's wrong with my industry? Because now it's the guy outside the room. Second, it's the guy outside the room. We can have a very candid conversation because he ain't here. And they will tell us about the egg on our own face. I said, what's wrong with IT providers? You've worked with other IT companies. This was when the Palm Pilot, remember the Palm Pilot, when the Palm Pilot was on? Larry goes, you know, my last IT guy charged me $500 to repair a $250 Palm Pilot. Just give me a new Palm Pilot. I'm like, find another way to make $500 from Larry. It ain't Palm Pilots, baby. All right? Whatever the other guy's doing wrong is what we need to fix. And the last question, what do you need next? What do you need next? You know, a lot of us will go to our customers and say, hey, what else can I do for you? Horrible question to ask. Because what else I can do for you means it's an open Pandora's box. Say whatever you can think of. First thing that comes to mind, whatever. It's actually overwhelming. But if we tell our customer, what's the one thing you need next from me? They will likely tell you the one thing you need next. They will put your apple orchard out in front of Pittsburgh. So what am I doing right? What's wrong with my industry? What do you need next? Brian Smith, as I was talking with him as we were wrapping up our interview, he told me how UGG has changed. I don't know if you knew this, but UGG now has, they made their boots about calf high because of asking their customers what's wrong with flip-flops and all these other things. And what surfers said is as you walk along the beach with a boot or sandals or anything, the sand will kick up if you're wearing sneakers and go in your shoe. The reason UGG goes up here is because when you walk down a beach, it can't kick sand in the boot. The reason they use shearling, that's the material inside, is because it doesn't collect odor. Another problem that surfers were talking about. You wear dirty, ratty sneakers, it starts stinking like Lincoln. Lincoln was known for his stench. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, fact. A lot of historical facts coming out here. But the UGG boot is designed that way and uses that material because Brian asked, what do you need next? What's wrong? And what am I doing right? Do the same thing. The final step of Surge, and the part I get a little bit tentative about sharing, is the expansion phase. The reason is most businesses say, I'm going to skip the first 4 steps in surging. I'm not going to separate out a niche. I'm not going to unify. I'm not going to do a minimum viable product. I'm just going to start expanding. And they get trapped. So I'm a little hesitant sharing this, but I need to share it because this is the final step. Once,
number 9 first?
what, number 9? Yes, I can give you number 9, but I won't. No, of course I will. Number 9, then my ratings just dropped like by 50% right there. Surging businesses get into a selling trance, right? We're talking about how we get trapped. The vendor gets trapped. You must avoid selling muddy water, and you must constantly gather knowledge. You must constantly seek better ways to serve your niche. Okay, so trance, muddy water, gather, and niche. The final stage, E, is cloning your niches. I'll just play out the story of UGG of how they did it. Once they found out who their niche was, surfers, that's how UGG started, they were doing about 40 million in revenue. And this is roughly the guidepost I found. If you're in a service-based business and you're doing 10 million in one niche, then it's usually time to start cloning niches. If you're less than 10 million, this is the stage you should not do yet until you dominate the niche and be the industry authority in it. Here's what Brian did. Brian was dominating the surfing niche, and he asked himself, who else has the exact same needs? Cold feet. And by the way, Brian also found that surfers aspired to be like the pros and semi-pros of the sport, so he was starting to give UGGs away to the pros and semi-pros. So what has pros and semi-pros, and who has cold feet? Well, it's very clear. Hockey players. Hockey players. So Brian went to arguably the most populous hockey-playing state in the country, Canada. Every Canadian's like 0. This guy, I love he went to Canada and started to meet with the pro and semi-pro hockey players, started going to hockey games, and the hockey community took on UGGs. Skiers started taking on UGGs. Hunters took on UGGs. And it was only after he was in like 7 different niches that he had cloned, and they were doing hundreds of millions, did he go after arguably the most competitive, visceral, angry, cutthroat niche on the planet. Exactly, teenage girls. And Brooke Shields wore the UGG boot, and the brand exploded to us recognizing, unless you were a surfer or a hockey player, did you know about the brand. You can clone your niche too once you dominate the first niche. Back at the Waffle House, Becky Blanton, we finish up our like 17th waffle at Waffle House, and it's time to wrap it up. We walked outside together, and I was walking over my car. We met in Virginia. I was going to drive back home, and Becky was to depart ways. And I look at Becky, and before we said bye, she just does a scan like this, and she moved to one of the gutters, the rain gutters, bends over, and picked up a $10 bill. Gutters, by the way, another hot spot for money. So now you know all the techniques. Go to bus stops, slide your hands along furniture, and gutters. And I looked at Becky, I said, I'm like, oh my God, Becky, today's your lucky day. And she looked back at me and said, it's not luck. She goes, I deliberately put myself in places where I know I'll find the opportunity. I'm constantly looking for the opportunity. That's the final answer to number 10 here. The most underrated determinant of success is being in the right place at the right time. And cross out the word you need. It's you must deliberately look for the opportunities. I am telling you, there is a massive opportunity in front of you in your niche. You will surge if you grab it. Thank you, guys. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you.